Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. We're Megan Morgs, and in today's video we're going to be doing a cost breakdown of everything that we spent travelling Sri Lanka. So we've been exploring Sri Lanka for the past 4 weeks, and we've been trying to stick to a daily budget of £20 per person per day. So we're going to go through those costs and see how affordable it is for you to travel to.
We also want to encourage you to come and visit a country that's had quite a tough time the past few years with the pandemic and then the recent sort of political troubles. The Sri Lankan tourist industry has taken a big hit, but from our experiences we want to basically encourage you to come to this brilliant country because it's not one to be missed.
So for our cost breakdown, we have split costs into different categories, and we've actually tracked what we spent our whole time there, which is something I really recommend that you do as well. So we have accommodation, we've got travel, food, activities and miscellaneous, basically to cover all the areas. And we'll go through these one by one and show you sort of what our daily average cost was.
We'll start off with accommodation. Now this is a category we didn't try and sort of skimp and save on too much because we wanted to know that we'd stay in a nice room, we wouldn't have to worry about bed bugs, we'd have aircon, we'd be nice and cool, and we also tried to get breakfast included as well. One thing that we found with accommodation is that accommodations in the north and central areas of Sri Lanka were generally quite a lot cheaper than in the south coast, and also our accommodations in the north and central regions also often included breakfast in our stays, whereas on the south coast often it didn't. This is something to sort of consider on your trip because you might want to budget a larger amount for your daily budget for the south coast.
Whilst we were travelling Sri Lanka, we primarily stayed in homestays, which are really nice. You get to sort of meet a family and it's got that sort of comfortable feel to it, especially when they make a really great breakfast. We booked all our accommodation through booking.com. We know you can also check out Hostel World, Agoda and also Airbnb. As we've got a genius level on booking.com, just worked out the most affordable for us and we got the most for our money.
During our 4 weeks in Sri Lanka, we spent a total of £158.48 on accommodation. So that works out as an average daily spend of £5.87 per person per day. And this is also inclusive of the 2 nights of luxury accommodation that we took in Colombo for the very beginning of our trip.
The luxury accommodation was £17.50 each per night, and so affordable to live luxury while you're there. The next category that we are going to talk about is transport. So our total cost for transport whilst we were travelling Sri Lanka was £34.51. We mainly used buses, trains and tuk-tuks to get around, and we'd recommend that you do the same too. It's so accessible and so easy, and also you get a glimpse into the life of living like a local as well.
So although we don't include this in our our daily spend, daily cost, our flights were £212 each. That taken us from London in England all the way to Colombo in Sri Lanka. We opted for a cheaper way of getting there, so we took 4 shorter flights. This just happened to be the best way for us to get there, just because we were sort of time rich in the sense that we could take as much as the time as we needed to get there. But if you're you need to get there quickly because you've only got a short amount of time there. We spoke to a few people and I think they got their return flights for around £800. So when using public transport, we opted for second class unreserved tickets when we were taking the train. This seemed like the best option in the sense that they have the open windows and the fans on you. We were able to sort of keep nice and cool, and also having the open windows allowed you to sort of have better access to the views and things, rather than first class tickets which were a hell of a lot more expensive and also sort of didn't give you that local experience like Mick talked about. There's also of course the option to be in third class where most of the locals would be. This is a fine option if you're really on a tight budget. However, sort of the train tickets for us were really affordable. They were usually less than £1 each, so around, for example, the Galle to Colombo train was about 3.5–4 hours right up the west coast, and it cost us 500 rupees each. As for buses, just jump on, be quick because the driver's in a hurry. But jump on, put your bags down, go grab a seat, and then the bus conductor will come to you and they'll either have a ticket machine that will print out, or alternatively they'll write you out a ticket. But again, these are super cheap. You know, a long journey, maybe sort of like 3-4 hours, that'll probably cost you again around 500 rupees maximum, maybe 300 rupees, it depends really. But also we felt that we were only probably overcharged once when we were on the south coast. I think it was only a short journey, but all in all, I mean, you know, this is a small amount of money to worry about, and we didn't worry about it at the time.
The buses are really cheap and they're so easy to get. Bear in mind they're hot, they're sweaty, windy. No two bus rides are the same, and we had a lot of fun getting the buses.
We did, but yeah, one bus ride, it might be absolutely packed. There's no seats, you're gonna have to stand up for 2-3 hours. And another bus ride, you know, it might be completely empty. You're sat down with a row to yourself with your bag, and you can just chill out. Bearing in mind there's no fans or aircon on these local buses, but we did sort of hear of some travellers getting private buses, and I think these were probably a fixed price around 1,000 rupees. So again, that would probably be about £2.50, and this was sort of from Gore to Colombo or some of the longer journeys. So our final and most common sort of mode of transport when we were in a city or a town would be bartering for a tuk-tuk. So usually the price that you get given, you know, they see you're a tourist, they're not going to give you a local price straight off the bat. So you're going to need to barter them down quite a significant amount. So a good way to know if you're getting a good price or not is using the ride app called Pick Me. So you can just download this off your app store, and this will basically tell you about the average cost if you were to get a tuk-tuk or a car taxi from where you are to where you want to be. Now this sort of doesn't take into account like hills, for example, which will cost the driver a bit more petrol. But generally speaking, this is a good sort of number to go off.
Bear in mind as well, if your guest house is arranging tuk-tuks, they put that price up, so don't always assume that they're giving you a good deal. Check Pick Me. Obviously, if they're getting a really high price, then they'll give some of that commission to their mate. So check Pick Me, know a good price going into it, and if you need to, wait a bit longer for the driver to arrive.
Yeah. Most of the time, we just sort of call drivers off the streets. Most of the time, the drivers sort of drive past you all the time saying, do you want a tuk-tuk? Do you want a tuk-tuk? Do you want a tuk-tuk? And so yeah, they're pretty easy to find. You can barter with the price, knowing the sort of Pick Me price. The only downside of Pick Me is that you can't order one if you're not in the big towns or cities, but it just gives you a good price for a good price per kilometre that you could expect to pay. We prefer to book directly with the tuk-tuk drivers just because then they're getting 100% of the profit. Just something to keep in mind.
Don't be afraid to take tuk-tuks either, they're super fun and the drivers are very skilled, and at the end of the day it's their livelihood, so they know that tuk-tuk and the roads in and out. The next category is food. So in total for our whole time in Sri Lanka we spent £218.09, daily average cost £8.09. As mentioned before, getting breakfast with a lot of our homestays really helped us keep those costs down. Also, we opted for local food mostly. I mean, we had a few Western meals, but primarily local.
But a local meal probably cost you between 1,000 or 1,400 rupees as an average, sometimes cheaper, sometimes more expensive, depending on where you are. But these sort of included the classic rice and curry, things like chicken kottu, and yeah, they have a great choice, plenty of flavour and plenty of spice if that's what you're into.
As far as tap water goes, we use life straw bottles and honestly they are amazing. We didn't get sick once from the water. It's just so great knowing that you are safe from all bacteria and pathogens and you always have a safe source of water nearby. This also helped us keep our food and drink costs down because we weren't having to buy bottled water.
So our next category is activities. So most of the activities in Sri Lanka are sort of free of charge. A lot of it is just hiking, maybe going to see a waterfall, walking around, experiencing the local culture, speaking to people. That's what we really enjoyed. However, there were some brilliant activities that we decided to splurge on just because they're unmissable things. So for example, we went on a Yala National Park safari. This cost us $50 each. That was sort of our main expensive activity, just seeing that is, you know, around 2 days worth of our budget. But we were able to do that because sort of we cut costs here and there. We also hiked up Pidirangula Rock. near Sigiriya. This was sort of chosen instead of doing the Lions Rock, just because Pitarangula cost us around $3, whereas Lions Rock would have cost us $30. But again, if you've sort of got a bigger budget or you're not planning on spending as little as we did, then go for Lions Rock because it's supposed to be brilliant.
Also, Yala is one of the most expensive national parks, so if you are just wanting to see sort of elephants and other wildlife and you're not too bothered about seeing a wild leopard, then have a look at the other places and the other national parks. There's so many safaris out there, you can definitely get a good deal.
One of the other things that we really wanted to do when we were in Sri Lanka was try a surf lesson. So Sri Lanka is probably one of the cheapest places in the world that you can start doing your surf lessons. Unfortunately, we only sort of had time to do one just because when we were in Weligama.
Bar tea prices down as well. I mean, they start high. I think it was about £15 a lesson they tried to sell us one, and we got it down to around £8 each, so definitely barter. Another activity as well that we would recommend is snorkeling. Take your own snorkel. There's so many opportunities to swim with turtles along the south coast. There's loads of vendors hiring out their snorkels, but because we had ours, we didn't have to pay.
But even if you don't want to bring your own snorkel or an extended backpacking trip, and maybe you don't have one because you're sort of trying to save on packing space, you can rent these for probably less than £1 a day, maybe, you know, around 400 rupees. In total, over the 4 weeks we were in Sri Lanka, we spent £57 and 12 pence each on our activities. So again, like I said, most of the activities are free, but the ones that we did splurge on, that's how much we spent.
And our last but not least category is miscellaneous. So anything that doesn't fit into the others, this is where it went. So any sort of toiletries that we bought, ATM fees, laundry, this is where it is. And in total we spent £28.84 for our time there each.
So overall, after spending 4 weeks travelling Sri Lanka, we each spent £497 and 30 pence. Like I said earlier, this isn't inclusive of our original flight out from the UK and isn't inclusive of our travel insurance, but these are costs that we've sort of budgeted for previously as we were on an extended backpacking trip.
As we also said, we had a daily budget of £20 per person per day, and our total spend came out to £18.42 per person per day, so we were definitely beneath it. I hope this video just shows how affordable Sri Lanka is to backpack. It really is such a great country and we can't recommend it enough.
No, absolutely. If you are someone that's travelling on a strict budget or a semi-strict budget, we'd really recommend tracking your spends using an Excel spreadsheet. It's easy to do, you know, at the end of the day, just put in what you spent on food, accommodation, activities, travel, etc. And then you can keep an easy track of what you spent in that day. You know, at the end of the trip, you might be like, oh, how much did I spend on this? How much did I spend on that? I think I've got way less in my bank than I should have done. You might look back and forget all the things that you spent the money on. Whereas at the end of the day, if you sort of spend 5 minutes doing it, eventually at the end of the trip, you'll know exactly where you spent your money and you'll feel good knowing that you stuck to your budget.
We really hope that you've enjoyed this video and found it useful if you are planning on going to Sri Lanka. As we've said before, we can't recommend it enough. If you did like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel.
Also make sure to follow us on Instagram @Megan Morgs, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.